I'm Anna Webb, and welcome to A Dog's Life. Before we go any further, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's listening and rating and reviewing the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. This week, we're chatting to the amazing physiotherapist and, of course, amazing dog advocate, Donna Wills, all about her book called The Best Goodbye. Donna Wills, I'm so delighted that you're joining us on A Dog's Life.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. This is just amazing. Thank you.
Oh, don't be silly. Well, we've known each other for a really long time, which I think's relevant to point out because we are going to be talking about your book, which is called The Best Goodbye.
Yes, most definitely. Yes, I'm very proud of it. Thank you.
No, it's a fabulous book. Now, just to put everything into context, you are an animal welfare specialist, I would say, as a leading animal physiotherapist. And prior to that, you trained as a veterinary nurse. I think I'm right.
Yes.
And really, it's your physiotherapy that, you've really taken, to the masses almost, haven't you? Which I love because it's so important.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very proud that my career has, it spanned a very, very long time. I've been a physio for, this is my 20th year now. And my nursing for even longer before that. And there's some overlap. And yeah, in my time, I've worked in rescue, I've worked in all sorts of ways. And it's all led me to have such a huge caring heart for animals. My whole life has been dedicated to caring for animals. And I am so proud of that.
Absolutely. Gosh, animals, they so deserve it. I always say animals make us human, especially dogs, but more and more, funnily enough, I'm not lesser than dogs. Mike, my producer's going to go, here we go. Let's enter the cat. Cats in the last 14 years, Donna, have really captured my heart. I never thought they would actually, but they have. They're absolutely extraordinary little people.
They are, and I completely agree. I mean, yes, there's always the argument, cat people, dog people, all that sort of thing. But actually, any animal, they can all get under your skin. It's really quite incredible. We literally just got two new chickens yesterday, and we've only been chicken mums and dads for about a year, and they have got so under our skin. And I can't tell you how shocked I was that we thought we'd like these chickens and they'd be great members of the family and all that sort of thing. We had no disillusions of that, but how much they actually get into your hearts, and you end up seeing their personalities and all that sort of thing. You think it's chicken, but they're amazing. And rabbits too. I mean, they are such a great loved pet in the UK now. It's incredible. All animals, they've all got this amazing ability to get connection. And I think we all need to open our minds and hearts to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the world is a better place. I think animal lovers, are generally speaking, so obviously there is still cruelty and neglect that goes on, but generally speaking, animal lovers are better people. I don't trust people who don't love animals. I will say it was something my dad taught me a long time ago. He said, don't trust anyone who doesn't love dogs. And you know
Yes.
what? I mean, really, it's not a bad rule of thumb to follow.
No, I think it's a fair comment. And I always feel sorry for people who aren't able to have animals for all the right reasons, because then they obviously can't have them in their lives for, there are various good reasons from that point of view. But yeah, as a rule of thumb, I'd say I just don't get it when people don't like animals. I don't get how you can be like that. That's the thing. I find myself completely perplexed and just, I can't get my head around how you can possibly not give your heart in that way. So yeah, I don't, and that obviously that then makes you distrust, those type of people, because you just think I don't get it. So but it is something we have to sort of, I don't know, navigate through our lives, isn't it? There's all sorts of people out there that I don't get.
Yeah, yes, I agree. But it kind of leads on to talking about your book, because of course dogs and all pets do capture your heart. And the saddest part of pet ownership, of course, is that they aren't pre-programmed, to live as long as people. So, generally speaking, you outlive your pets.
Absolutely. And it is heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And you end up spending so much of your time worrying about that day coming as well, which is always so scary because, you pre-grieve and you don't even recognize that that is something that's going on. And yeah, it is the saddest thing. And that's why I sort of said there are some people that I know, having had and lost their own animals, they have decided not to put their heart there again. And I understand it, but I also think that the amount they give you is so powerful that you do put yourself through that pain time and time again, because that it's such an amazing relationship while you have it. And I thank my Logan every single day for every day that he gave me. And we had the most amazing, incredible relationship. And I'll never ever regret any of that, despite the pain. And wow, it was pain when I lost him. Unbelievable. You can't predict it. You can't know that's coming. And the pain is just, it's almost indescribable. It's horrendous. I mean, it's physical pain. It's incredible. So yeah, hard.
No, well, look, I totally get it. Everyone knows that when Molly, my first bull terrier, passed, I derailed. I ended up in Shropshire, which is all right because I went there to help my mum. But it was like, this it was all crazy. I mean, none of it benefited myself at all. Actually, it was horrendous. I was like kind of floating around the country, only to come back to London, which was weird. And it was all part of this huge shock of losing Moles, not knowing what on earth I was doing, where I was going, how I could carry on at all. I was just driven by, a dreadful, not guilt, because I knew, I'd done everything, but there was a huge amount of anger in me, at, oh God, everybody from vets to you name it, right? That I felt had let me down along the way, which arguably maybe some of them had, to have been in this situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something I really learnt from. But as you say, none of the books, none of anything can really prepare it, because it is so individual. And that's where this book is so interesting to me, because, you do document the moment Logan arrived in your life through to that last day. And thereafter, you're really speaking so openly, Donna, and offering advice, which may work for some people, may not work for others, but it's very, very open, this book, actually, Donna, I would say, in a good way. And I think it's quite unique as such.
I certainly do feel like I describe it as bearing my bum in public. Because it is very much, I wrote from the heart. I mean, when I was stimulated to write that book, I was crying. And so, when you're that emotional, then everything comes out. It was cathartic. I needed to write like that. And when I'd finished it, I, at that point, recognized it needed to go out. So it wasn't written to be public. And so therefore it is very raw. And then it was public because I felt that it was important, because one of the things you touched on there is your absolute roller coaster of emotions. And I know you said you didn't feel guilt, but I don't doubt for 1 minute that it was part of that mixed package of emotions, that there was some in there, because I know I felt some guilt, even though I knew the sensible side of my head did nothing wrong, but I still felt some guilt. The first smile I made after he'd gone, oh, the guilt for that. How dare I smile,
That's so funny you should say that, because it's day by day. I remember hating filling up my car, right, with petrol. The first time I filled my car and Molly wasn't in the car, absolutely everything day by day has a complete different semantic.
Absolutely. I mean, I had a huge number of people saying to me, "Oh, well, at least you've got another dog," and that actually had I mean, maybe there was a smidge of, yeah, I can cuddle my other dog, but actually I felt so much guilt around him because every single time I went to fill up the water bowl, taking for a walk was horrendous. The first walk without Logan was absolutely awful. Cried the whole time. And so everything that you have to do in normal life all of a sudden isn't the same. And so you're absolutely right. And your normal things, cleaning the kitchen floor, vacuuming was horrendous. Now I'm getting rid of his fur, the last things he left me. I even poop picking, as disgusting as that is, going out to the garden and picking up his last poops was like absolutely horrendous. It's amazing how many things can trigger you. Even selling my car a year later because I knew that Logan's fur was still in that car, that was heartbreaking. It's mental how much can trigger you the whole time and just really kick off this wealth of emotion. So yeah, it was such a journey, and I really felt strongly that other people should see this so that they understand that it's normal. Because I really was telling myself off, like, don't be so ridiculous, don't be so ridiculous, in those things that you think other people are thinking and saying to you. But actually, then I told myself off even more for telling myself off because that was so crazy. And so yeah, this whole thing was born. And then the advice at the end, I mean, I very strongly say that this is not an exhaustive list. It's suggestions, and they are suggestions based on my history, based on all the things I've learned through my career with nursing and physio, because obviously with my nursing, I've helped with loads of euthanasias. I was an emergency and critical care nurse for a time, which meant I didn't actually necessarily know those patients and owners before that time. And so obviously I had to step into it from almost a stranger perspective, which is obviously different to if you knew the vets and you've got a connection. But obviously, we still obviously have a very compassionate way about us. But I'm just really aware of what that meant and the differences. And then equally as a physio, I've now got huge connections with all of my patients and their mums and dads. I mean, some of them I've known for years and years and years through their treatments. And so then when they go, it's actually hard for me as well. But I do feel that I can give some nuggets of advice to try and help with preparation or help with the aftermath. And so, all that list has come from that. And there'll be other people that have got good ideas to add to that list. And there'll be things on there that you won't have thought of and thought, oh, that's a good idea. So it's just a good idea to have a look and just know that there could be things to help that moment and help make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So, what do you think your top 3 advice notes would be, Donna?
I mean, the first one's preparation. Preparation. Just acknowledging that those grayer years are happening and being ready will help to make you feel calmer, because I think a lot of the biggest problems when that moment comes is deciding last minute, I've got to do it now, and I know that obviously not everybody has that gift of being able to be prepared. Sometimes these things are completely unexpected, but if you are in the opportunity to, you are in a position where you actually can take the opportunity to make a plan, I think that is wise. So what I mean by being prepared just means like having that decision making process. Am I going to have it at home? Am I going to have it at the vets? Can I afford to have it at home? These are all different choices. Is your vets even one that will come out and do home visits for euthanasia? You can ring them up and have that conversation, because you might be surprised. The answer might be yes, the answer might be no. And if it's a no, then you need to find something that will do what you feel is right for your goodbye, because you have got choice, and that is perfectly acceptable, because this is I always call it the final gift to your loved one. And for people are getting much more prepared about their own funerals. Obviously you may or may not agree with that, but lots of people are getting very prepared early, and it just means that you've got plans in place. even it could be that you even have to start making a saving plan, for example. It might be that you don't recognize how expensive it is to have it done at home. And you think, oh, wow, I better start saving because that is what I want. So I think preparation can just really give you some peace of mind. It does, it's not about saying goodbye already. That's not the case at all. It's just about making sure that you can give the best goodbye that you would like to, because it is your choice. And just do it in a way that you would like. So in my book, I describe how I did it. And I took Logan for a walk, and we collected loads of foliage from his favorite walk. And so that was all around him when we did his euthanasia. And it was booked. And, I was privileged to be able to make that booking. I made the booking days before it actually happened because I knew it was time, but I also needed to give myself some headspace to decide it was definitely the right time. And so it all worked. And then I was also able to book for his his cremation the next day as well. So I booked all of that. But I will say this, I told the vets and I told the cremation company, I need to be able to cancel this if I need to last minute. And they were all fine with that, because I didn't want to be sealing the deal, as it were. But I did know that it was time, really. So preparation is definitely top of the agenda there. The second piece of advice, it's so hard because there's so many pieces of advice.
I know. I like the one that's quite simply keep drinking lots of water.
Yes. Do you know, that was one I was just thinking that is one I should definitely put on. Definitely, because you have such a huge headache from the amount of dehydration. So you have got to keep drinking lots of water. And it's really easy to forget your own self-care. And so you'll end up so dehydrated. Your face is so dry. Your nose is so swollen. Your lips are so swollen. And then, it's a mess and you need Vaseline on your lips and everything. So drink so much water. That is such a good piece of advice. Another good piece of advice is to tell your neighbors and friends, because it's something you feel is quite private, so you don't want to tell anybody, but actually the support you can get from those people is huge. And what I mean by tell them isn't necessarily they're going to all come around and start giving you hugs. That's not the case at all. But because it's quite nice these days, you can just send a message. So I messaged both of my neighbours that were each side of me because I did not want to walk out my door and then have them saying, "Oh, hi Donna, what are you carrying there?" When we had our boy in our arms. And equally, I wanted them to know when we got home, there's a reason why we're ignoring them and crying and carrying on. I didn't want to feel guilty about snubbing them ultimately. So I did tell my neighbours and I told friends, because I was effectively asking for help with childcare situation. It's all discussed in the book. But also those same friends, they were amazing. People just dropped around amazing care packages. They didn't stop. They didn't, disturb me or anything like that. And that was fine. I had people dropping flowers on my doorstep. But one of the most notable was a friend who dropped a care package round. It was amazing. They had like pot noodles, a book for Paige, lavender bath oil, and all sorts of things just to make us feel better, all sorts of things. And it was absolutely so touching. So don't be alone is what I'm trying to say. Just make sure you tell your select people, because that's not the same as a Facebook post. It's about telling people personally, just so that they are your support network and you recognize that no matter who you are, I know you'll have a support network. Just make sure that you engage it. People want to help, and you need to let them.
No, 100%. This is such good advice. I mean, but sometimes, Gremlin, my cat, he had a very untimely death, okay, and massive misdiagnosis, the whole 9 yards, right, of his ninth life. So it wasn't like planned. He died young. He shouldn't have died, actually. And he died on a life support machine because, the vet in question also, I knew he was dying from poisoning, and that is what killed him. And so he died on a life support machine. That's quite an irony, isn't it? Because he'd gone really down over the weekend. And I thought, because the vets were convinced he had diabetes, which shouldn't kill you, basically to put him on fluids, get his temperature up, and so on and so forth. So there was no real preparation was able to happen. It was a massive shock, the whole process of Gremlin becoming ill. And it was an awful 3 months, not last year, the year before. So sometimes even the best pet parents have situations that this planning and preparation can't happen. And that's tough, I think, very tough.
I agree wholly and completely. And yeah, I acknowledge that wholly and completely, that not everybody is in, like I say, it's a privileged position to be able to plan. And I see that wholly and completely. And my heart goes out to anybody in those situations. As I say, I worked as an emergency and critical care nurse, and I saw that more times than I can tell you. And that is why I am so sympathetic to those scenarios. They are completely unexpected. And there, that's what counsellors are for, is what I would absolutely say. You know, there are pet bereavement counsellors out there that are specifically trained in dealing with these types of scenarios. It's a trauma. It's a trauma for you wholly and completely. And I have no doubt you will still be traumatized from that, which makes complete sense, because why wouldn't you be? I mean, you've been through hell and you tried your absolute best, and and it was all out of your control, wholly and completely. And yeah, counseling is definitely the answer in those scenarios. I would say that when you get older, the only thing to be aware of is that, and obviously your scenario is completely in a young animal, and that is unavoidable, because you're not going to think of later years in that situation. But when they are older, older starts from much younger than you realize. And I think that's probably something that's worth touching on there, because, you know, most dogs are officially geriatric at age 8. If you've got a large dog or certain breeds of younger dog, smaller dog, their official old age is 6 even. So really, if you're trying to be prepared for their grey years, then you would be prepared from much younger. So as a result, you would have some ideas even for when it goes wrong, if you sort of mean, and when it's not fully under your control. So there is some level of planning that could have happened, that could happen in some scenarios. But obviously, yeah, you're speaking of those awful situations that is just impossible. So yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that, Anna. It's really awful. My heart goes out to you and to anybody who's been in that situation, because I know it happens.
Oh, no, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think what helped actually was a stray feral tomcat. Donna must have known there was a vacancy, which cats somehow know. This is this thing about cats. They're kind of a bit out there, aren't they?
Yes.
And he just landed on my doorstep. I mean, he was in a terrible state, facing death himself. But, I really somehow do believe, Gremlin sent him to be the cat that got old, will get old and will die normally, all being well, touch wood, please, universe, because I always worried about Gremlin being old. Well, I mean, he wasn't young when he died. He was 13, but he was in fine fettle. He'd never had anything wrong with him. He was the most magnificent of magnificences. Yeah, we just had this huge problem with foxes that summer. It was bizarre. It was something to do with the post-pandemic breeding cycle of foxes. It was extraordinary what was going on in our neighborhood with foxes. I mean, we've always had urban foxes, of course, but this was like an epidemic it felt like I was living in a fox safari park. Couldn't take the dogs out into the garden normally. We had to go on leads. I mean, it was mad. A couple of dogs did get killed by foxes. Cats got injured. It was mad. These foxes, they were strange, and they were all annihilated. And now we haven't got any.
Oh wow, that
I
does sound
know. It was
absolutely
very
horrible.
strange. It was like the order of nature had got skewed. It was a real worry, but Grem could handle himself with foxes. I mean, he was massive, you see. He was
Yeah.
7.5 kilos and thin and lean, so he was a big cat compared to, oh dear, bags of character. He's a very small cat, but he's yeah, it's got bags of character. But we sort of digress, but it's just a different type. Well, we're not digressing really at all. It's like, yeah, sometimes you don't know, though. Sometimes I think the universe has plans that we maybe can't control. I always think, it's good to be in control and try and be in control. I am a bit of a control freak, but ultimately, sometimes you can't, all the best planning can sometimes fall apart.
Completely agree. Wholly and completely. And I also want to say that I'm very much down that spiritual zone as well, by the way. So I very much believe that Bonnie, who landed on my doorstep 5 months after we lost Logan, and me and my husband have both said, oh no, we're just going to have our one dog for a while. And we weren't ready at all. But Bonnie came, and she was actually brought to me as a patient from another rescue centre to fix her hip. And I was she just got under my skin straight away. And it's so weird because she's got odd traits that are not specifically collie traits, but they're so similar to Logan. And I've always said, I feel like Logan sent her. It was so bizarre. So I do think that you're right. I think you've got to let fate, whatever it is you believe, just do its thing and have its mojo and its journey, because I do think that things happen for a reason, be they bad or good. And so, yeah, I think we do need to just let life allow it to take its control, because you're absolutely right. I'm also a control freak, obviously, but you can't control everything. And I just feel like you want to feel like you tried is probably the thing, but it's equally you do have to just accept it when it doesn't go as you had planned and hoped.
Well, exactly. But the key point I think is to keep thinking, look, because look, Mr. Binks, my little English toy terrier, who you've met, he's 13 in 2 weeks. I can't believe it. I mean, he's a small dog, so working on your principle of aging that you mentioned just a minute ago. He's not as old as a Labrador would be at 13, or shouldn't be, but he's got leg calf palsy, as you know, Donna. So, and it's this joint thing at the moment that I think is causing a bit of a problem, but I'm working on it. Don't worry, we're really working on his microbiome at the moment, because I think the joint issue is affecting his gut.
Yeah, I'm all about microbiome. So well done.
Yeah. No, I thought you would be. It's
Yeah.
really, it's such a burgeoning area of science, isn't it, at the moment?
It's huge, it's growing, it's gut microbiome, it's dental microbiome, even
Yeah.
brain microbiome is being discussed now, it's skin microbiome, and they all overlap as well, because you lick some skin, it ends up in your mouth, ends up in your gut. It's incredible. The microbiome discussion is huge and I love it.
Oh, no, great. Well, we'll have to do another episode all about that. But going back to the best goodbye, at the beginning, I'm just trying to see, you have a trigger warning, don't you? Which I love.
Yes.
The book's really friendly, is a good way of putting it. You feel that you've got a friend in your hand when you're holding this book, I would say. You say, please be aware, this book may evoke many emotions. And honestly, in reading it, I was in floods of tears. And of course, it brings back memories, of course. But in a way, it's good to do that. It's good sometimes to go back there and then perhaps reevaluate and then think, what Donna's saying here is absolutely right. And perhaps compare and contrast a little bit. But then you say it is designed to empower your thoughts before you say goodbye. However, I do recognize that it may also evoke feelings of guilt and sadness over previous goodbyes. But life is a journey and we learn as we walk it. There is no judgment for choices we have made under the circumstances we are faced with. Warm hugs and strength to every reader for their own journey.
Thank you. Yeah, obviously the trigger warning is entirely important and appropriate, and it was born because people cried. Even reading it through the proofreading, it was crying. And so I definitely had to add that. And obviously, I mean every word of it as well. It's so important. And our life really is a journey. And I've had a surprising, because I thought the whole point of this book was to help support people when they're preparing for their goodbye. But actually, a lot of people have also read it having already said goodbye, and they've said exactly what you've just said, that it feels like a supportive hug and it helps them to reflect and to feel better about their emotions. So a lot of people have read it afterwards and also got a lot of comfort from it. And equally, there'll be things in there that you may not have thought of for your previous goodbyes. And that's why I talk so much in there about the goodbyes I've had before I had Logan, because they were all different and they've all been, you know, a little bit more of something each time, because times have changed. You know, we've moved on, we've got more emotional, we've, you know, allowed ourselves to be more loving, and that's great. So it's really important to just recognize that whatever choices you made in the past, it is okay to make new choices now. And it doesn't mean that you did a disservice to your previous dog. It just means that you've now learned a new way, and that is okay. Because I think that's where I said about guilt is, if you haven't reflected or done what you've been prepared before, and then all of a sudden you've got a new dog now and you feel actually you would like to be prepared, I have no doubt you feel guilty for not doing those things before. But it's okay because you've just learnt now, and that's okay. That's life, isn't it?
No, totally, absolutely. But I do also believe in thinking, well, something I don't, do you know the vet, Alistair Greenway, who does acupuncture?
I don't know him specifically,
Oh,
sorry.
no, no. Well, anyway, he was giving Molly acupuncture way back, you know, when she, much younger, when she was in 2009 and onwards. And he's doing Mr. Binks at the moment. And I remember he said to me, Anna, I know so many people that worry about death at the point where there is no need to worry about death, that you're, you know, there is a worry. I'm such a worrier as well, that you don't appreciate the moment. You know, it's so important to be totally satisfied with yourself, really, that you gave your dog the best life that you possibly could, or your cat, you know,
Yeah.
that you were, you know, I'm proud. I think I give them the absolute best diet. You know, I'm on it. You know, I study. You know, I'm researching everything. You know, like the microbiome at the moment. You know, I'm really on that. I was part of a big study on bone broth, for example. Like, how random, but important, so that you know you feel, you know, you're not rushing it.
No, and no, and that's why I said what I said about even those final days. I made sure the vet and the crematorium both knew that I could cancel at any point, because I didn't want to say goodbye, you know, at the wrong time either, or what I perceived to be the wrong time, because that's a complicated conversation. But I think that it's a fine balance between worrying before you need to in an unreasonable way and being prepared. And what I would say is actually your discussion of microbiome there is a really excellent one, because the reason why you worry about microbiome is because of longevity. You're not worrying about the microbiome for today, because that's, you don't give a probiotic and then boom, I'm better today. That's not how microbiome works. You worry about it because you know that that's for the health of the future of your animal. And so being prepared and being mindful and looking after yourself, which is the same thing, you know, looking after your diet, looking after your, you know, going to the gym, doing your exercise. Those are all things about being prepared, and you are aware of your mortality, but you don't sit there thinking about it all the time. And I think if you looked and self-reflected, you know, in your daily life, like, you don't just run across every single road without looking. You look first, because that's about taking some caution. It's not about you saying, oh no, I might die. It's just about being cautious about your choices. And so I think that, yeah, there's a fine line there, and I'm certainly not telling anybody to start fretting and planning and being like, oh no, from the minute they get their puppy. What I'm saying is, try and have a healthy mindset that just allows you to have a plan in place, so that, you know, when things happen, you know, you feel a bit prepared. That's all. And it's not actually, I think another good example, actually, sorry, we'll just reflect on this, because I've had a few times where a few clients have broke down in tears in front of me, and, you know, you end up talking to them and they're crying and they don't know why they're crying. I do. I can see it a mile off. I can see that they're pre-grieving, and, you know, because of the words they're saying and all that sort of thing. And for some of them, once you mention that, you know, exactly like your vet has said, once you mention that, actually, look, you're crying in advance of something, you're crying already for what hasn't happened, then all of a sudden it does help them with perspective, and then they can calm down and recognize that, oh yeah, I've had so many clients, actually ring me and thank me for speaking to them, because they have been so grateful that I've sort of opened their eyes that actually they're worrying about what hasn't happened yet, and they do need to settle down a little bit. And, like I said, it's not being disrespectful at all. It's trying to help them through that moment, and just decipher what's going on in their heads, because it's all a little bit scary and overwhelming. So I don't want people to start worrying and crying in their pre-grief. I just want people to acknowledge that actually we all do it. There's not, still there's moments that go through. I've got two, well, actually Saga's pretty old now, but Bonnie's pretty young, and it still crosses my mind that I need to have a plan in my head. I mean, for me, luckily, a lot of my plans already made, because when I lost Logan, obviously loads of plans were put in place, and he was the longest dog that I'd had with such a huge gap whilst being out of veterinary practice. So I didn't actually know what my options were, and with COVID everything changed everything, so I had to sort out a plan because my knowledge was different. And that's what I'm trying to say, is just having up-to-date knowledge helps you be more mindful and aware. I now know what my vets will charge, pretty much. I know that they will come out. I know a lot of more things, so I feel a bit prepared already, ready for Swagger, even though I haven't made the strong and deep plans that I will do when he's starting to look more frail.
No, this is so relevant, particularly I think at the moment, Donna, because there are a lot of people in the last 4 years, you mentioned COVID and that have got dogs. Many are first-time owners. And I think, I've helped many with their puppies. And certainly I know at that point, they're not thinking about them being dead. They're struggling with sick cues, recall, and all these things that are just brilliant, and they bombard you and immerse you, and it's a journey, starts the journey off. But I think it will hit a lot of these people in particular. I think the book is actually very contemporary. It's very now, because a lot of these people haven't had a dog before and perhaps underestimate this great connection that will build when their recall's fixed, and all of that. So I think it's an interesting, it is a really good book, and I'm honored to have written a little foreword in there. And it is true, it's a roller coaster of emotion, which I put without doubt. I knew that was going to be the minute I opened the book, but in a way I wanted that roller coaster. I wanted to go back there. It was a time in my life, where I missed Molly more than anything else. And arguably she'll always be the heart dog. Or somebody told me actually at the time, they said, Anna, there is always one dog that smashes your heart into a million pieces. Then every dog you own after that dog helps to repair your heart until you finally die with the heart of a dog.
Oh, wow.
I know. Gosh, I know. Wow.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, but I go with that. I go with that, actually. It's not that I don't love either of these as much as Moles, Moles, just we went on a very special journey together. That's the thing that, what with recent times, including COVID, I think everyone's had a very different decade to the one before.
Absolutely. I mean, I was going to say exactly that. It's your life is a journey, and you go through lots of different things, and the more emotional things you have, the more your bond is built and you connect. And so and also it is about that individual dog, and how much they want to bond with you, and so it is a two-way thing. So I do think exactly the same about that special one. I mean, I don't know whether or not there may be another special one that may come because of other journeys and things, but again, what I mentioned in my book is how, I had Logan from when I was single and doing my college courses. And then, I had him long enough that I ended up meeting my long-term partner and my husband, and he was my ring bearer. And then my child came, and, so there was many makeups and breakups and crying, and Logan used to give me cuddles. He actually used to put his head over my neck, and I had this little hum I could do. And when I did this hum, he always came and gave me a cuddle. And so that sort of connection is incredible. And then when he was older, he had his debilitation. So then, of course, you're doing a lot of his care and personal care. And we built a stair lift for him and all sorts of things. So all those things make you very, very bonded. Whereas I look at, like my swagger, obviously I love him to bits. I don't question that at all. But if I cry now, he hides. So you don't have the same connection with somebody who hides rather than comes and says, "Oh, do you need a cuddle?" So it's very difficult. And my Bonnie, well, she doesn't know what to do, because I think she sees Swagger hide and thinks, "Oh, should do that," and then she sees me and then wants to just come and lick my face. So again, it's not that calm cuddle that I had with Logan. It's, "Oh, lick your face, that'll make you feel better." So it's just different journeys, and they're both on it. And for right reasons. I mean, all of my dogs have always been rescue as well, so they always come with their own baggage. And so I don't hold anything against Swagger for how he handles me being upset. Because wow, he's had a history, obviously. And same with Bonnie. So it's, our journeys are very unique, and that's what builds us. I mean, all of us people are all very unique for all the same reasons. Our journeys are also different. So yeah, it's totally fine. And I think, yeah, dying with the heart of a dog, that's a perfect thing to say.
Oh gosh, no, thank you. I can't remember who said it. Yeah, I think, this is it. And of course, you see, the thing is, every dog has got such different personalities. I mean, Prudence, for example, can't bear it when I get stressed out. She'd be the worst pat dog ever. She'd be like, "Oh God, you're feeling a bit stressed, right? Well, I'm just going to leave the room." And then when you've calmed down, it's almost like she's training me.
But yeah.
This happened in COVID when I get really stressed with Zoom and everything. And she'd leave the room. And I'd be, so interesting, but this happened time and time again. So she obviously can smell my cortisol levels. We know that's true. Dogs can do that. But rather than trying to offer some support, she was out of here, but it was really interesting. I thought, crumbs, is it that bad? My gosh, I have to try and keep a level on my stress because it is negatively affecting her. Or she's just like, can't deal with it. She's a bull terrier and they hate weakness, and different breeds have different attributes, if you like, and personality traits, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, it's
Absolutely.
complex, but I think the whole relationship, absolutely, sadly, death is part of this. I did a great podcast. I urge you to listen. I was just and to listeners listening now, to listen with an amazing guy called Paul Coulandaris, who is really amazing Californian, who's written a book about pet cemeteries around the world, looking at some in the UK, the very famous Paris Pet Cemetery. They're all Victorian, so of a time, which was an interesting time in history, really interesting, and of course, burying isn't as sounds what a conversation we're having, but burying isn't perhaps as politically correct or as cremating. But back in the Victorian era, that you didn't cremate, that it hadn't kind of been invented yet, so burying was the only way. But I've been to that Paris cemetery. Oh my goodness, it's like you read the epitaphs and you know that other people have been there, and I think it
Yeah.
is a great comfort to know that you're not alone. Dogs have broken loads of people's hearts over the years. I mean, thousands, millions. It's why we dedicate every week on the barking at the moon. We have dedications. And I think that helps people as well. It's comfort because everyone listening understands. And that's the bit, isn't it? You either have people who understand because they've been through it, or those that, aren't dog lovers or are indifferent and really think, well, come on, get over yourself. It's just a dog.
Yeah, and again, I do say in my book, and this is another reason why I put that out there, most of my comfort came from my clients rather than my friends and family. And that wasn't because my friends and family didn't care. And obviously I had some amazing friends and family. But it was because my clients really got it. There were all of my clients, because I work with animals, are all absolute amazing animal lovers. And so they really got it. And the wealth of gifts and cards I was showered in was all, it's from your people. So You do. Obviously, I'm in a privileged position where I work with animals, so I'm surrounded by a lot of people who are amazing. So my hug, if you like, was huge.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
so I was very fortunate. But I know a lot of people are not in that position and do feel quite isolated, and that's why I say do know that there are pet counselors out there. But equally, there are. I mean, one of the joys of social media, like it or loathe it, is that there can be some amazing groups out there which are very supportive and do offer you opportunities to speak. So yeah, I mean, I did a podcast a while ago with Diana of the Blue Cross bereavement line. They set that up a long time ago, and that was so that you can ring and speak to someone freely, and get some support there. And she was saying all the same things, that people feel very isolated, feel very alone. All those things are awful, and none of us should feel it, because we are all thinking exactly the same when we lose our dogs. We all love them and we all miss them terribly. But for some reason, that British stiff upper lip thing is a thought that we just seem to have so ingrained that it's the one you keep telling yourself off with, which is crazy.
Yeah, no, I understand. And it just is different, so I think some people think, well, gosh, all the human deaths and suffering in the world and all the rest of it, but it's different. My mum died a year after moles, and it's probably going to sound dreadful. That was like a relief because of her bad dementia and so on. And it was all very difficult. And she wasn't really my mum anymore. You know what I mean? Dementia's horrendous.
It is.
Really bad. So, it was so different, but also
Yes.
quite together, time wise, that's the thing. So it's not that we're saying the death of a pet is, more significant, are we? We're not, at all. It's just very different.
It is very different. And I think it's worth acknowledging there as well that, because it didn't sound terrible what you said there to me at all. And so I just wanted it said because, sometimes, again, when we're elderly, we live for such a long time in that situation that some people end up grieving for years.
Mm.
Years and years and years. And so although our dogs can be elderly for quite a few years, it can be an insanely huge amount of time that an elderly person can be elderly. And it can be a situation that you end up feeling relief for them as much as anything, because it can be brutal. So I think it's well worth acknowledging that the two are very different things, and although you're sad for both, they're a different emotional journey.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree 100%. No, honestly, Donna, I really recommend this book to everyone. I think, almost to get this book when you do bring your first puppy or even kitten in to your home, for some perspective, if nothing less, to really highlight the importance. It's something I'm thinking a lot about at the moment because of Binks and Prudence. You wouldn't think it, but she is nearly 10. To really maximize each day. We do little experiences every single day now. We do red light therapy every day, all the rest of it. It makes me feel better. And that's the key. Because if you're feeling relaxed and in control again, back to that control, then so are your dogs.
Absolutely. And it is building memories. That's the big thing, and knowing that you've done everything that you can is just the greatest relief for yourself. And, because sometimes all you can isn't enough, but that's all you can do. And that's okay. And so you get the headspace to be able to give yourself that freedom to think and observe, which is really important. Very mindful.
Very mindful. Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, this has been quite a deep chat, and I've loved it because it's been a bit different and looking at things a bit differently, which I think is important. And just go on, give all the details of the book again and where people can get it.
Yeah, it's The Best Goodbye, a true story of love and farewell. And it's by Donna Wills. And you can go and find it anywhere. If you can get it on my website, which is animalphysiotherapy.org.uk, or you can get it on Amazon, Waterstones, basically everywhere, which is fabulous.
Yay, all the best places that you can buy a book. That's great. Well, thank you, Donna. And I really hope I might see you up at Crafts.
I hope so. I am trying to organise that. Yes, absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, thank you again for today. And yeah, I look forward to being in touch more this year.
Yes, and thank you again for inviting me. I've had a fantastic time. It's been amazing to talk about my book. Thank you.
That's our show, everyone. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Just want to say thank you again to Donna Wills for joining us today and talking about a heartfelt issue, The Best Goodbye, a true story of love and farewell. All the links to Donna and the book are in the show notes. Thanks again, of course, to Mike Hanson, my producer, for all the music and production as ever. Find out more about him at Pod People UK. And for me, why don't you check out my website, annaweb.co.uk, or my socials at annawebdogs. And of course, why not subscribe? Because the thing is, it's free. And that way, you'll never miss another show. See you next week. Bye for now.